We are ready.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Frankie here, and we are recording another episode of Love, Laughs, and Lessons. And this is our matchmaker series. And for those of you who don't know who I am a clinical psychologist. I'm the CEO of Little Gay Book Matchmaking and Little Black Book Matchmaking. And I am thrilled to be here with another fantastic guest we will introduce to you shortly. But first, I want to introduce you to Denise, who's my co-host, who's fantastic. And jump
Yes.
in.
Thank you, Dr. Frankie. I am Denise Rai, and I am the Client Service Director with Little Gay Book and Little Black Edit. I am the Client Service Director with Little Gay Book and Little Black Book, and thrilled to be here with a true pioneer. I am super excited to introduce Tressa O'Lear. Tressa started in the matchmaking world in 1989. Yes, there was matchmaking way back then. Yeah. Okay. And it has always been, and one of the things that I've loved about Tressa, I admired about her, for her, it has always been a labor of love. And she has been with this journey as this labor of love transcended the digital age. So before before computers even came on the scene, Tressa embarked on her matchmaking career by personally meeting each member, like really developing these amazing relationships and friendships along the way. Armed with just handwritten notes, she's navigated the world of matchmaking using post office to mail the matches weekly. Yeah. I don't think anyone even goes to the post office anymore. Everything is
You don't even know
right.
what the post office is, Denise. That's right. Lick the stamp.
Yes. So Tressa, welcome, welcome, welcome. We
Thank
are
you.
so happy to have you on this series with us. Tell us how you got started.
I answered an ad in the newspaper. Before computers, there was a newspaper thing, and if they needed help for jobs, and it said matchmaker. And I read it for a few Sundays. Um, Being in South Carolina, where you can and do date your brother, I couldn't imagine why you would need a matchmaker. I was young and I knew everything. And if I wanted a boyfriend, I went and got him. Um, so curiosity got the
I
best
love
of me.
that. You can and do date your brother. Is that really what goes down?
I'm sorry.
You can and do date your brother. Is that what I heard you say?
Well, if he's
Yeah.
cute, Dr. Frankie. I
Oh,
mean,
so no one's off limits.
no, um, I'm exaggerating, but certainly South Carolina was the Bible Belt, 1989. They thought we were hookers. They had no idea what it meant to say dating service. You didn't dare, because if you said dating, they'd make you an offer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I went to open a Charleston, South Carolina office in 1990, and Baba told me that he didn't allow people like me to come into his county, and that I needed to move by the Navy base where they did those sort of things. That on the city council, I couldn't get a business license. Uh,
Wow.
so it was the dark ages.
Yeah. Yeah. Around a lot of things. So what made you persist, insist, and how did we get from there to here?
Oh, well, how I existed and how it started was a love story, of course. And I thought it was my love story for the money I was making. I thought it was, I was early 30s, and I thought it was a me story, all about me. And I had a man come in, he was early 30s, and he was a registered nurse. And he just had his name was Chris. He'd had a hard time with women. He'd had a hard time with life. We were about the same age, and an invalid aunt took him in, and he turned his life around, and he was just excelling in everything but love. And I told him that I would work with him, and he paid me. And I thought, what am I going to do with this sad little boy? And you just shrug your shoulders and trust that universe, whomever is going to send that perfect match. 1 week to the day, they were both on Tuesday. And a little meek, mild girl came in, Beverly, and she giggled the entire time. Beverly had a 2-year-old son in an abusive relationship, and she left in the night with nothing. She had no money. We cost a lot. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew what I had to do was introduce her to Chris. The more we talked, the more I just felt it in my bones. And this is early on, maybe 6 months in the business. And I said to Beverly, you have to write me a bad check. So again, going back pre computers, they
Yeah,
literally
we were
wrote
writing
you a
checks.
check, you took it to the bank, it took a week to clear. So I said to her, it'll take a week to clear, and then we'll figure out what to do from there. I know you don't have the money. So I did a payment plan with her, introduced her to Chris. A few months later, she came and she said almost verbatim, whoever you match me with has to accept my son. And I just thought, well, I'm not this is going to be a family ordeal. And a few months later, she came in with a diamond on her finger that would put your eye out. It had been the aunt's. She gave them the diamond. They had it reset. I was invited. That was my first wedding within a year of starting. And I took my niece because she had a child. I had to borrow a child to take to this wedding with me. And while Chris waited at the altar, a woman came rolling in a wheelchair with a beautiful corsage, and in her lap was, oh, I get goosebumps now, a little boy in a tuxedo sitting in the chair with her. And I had an epiphany. This isn't about me. This isn't about money. Not only whatever Chris and Beverly do, that's their business. I still get Christmas cards from them. And it's 33, almost 33 years. That little boy was never going to be the same because of me.
Yeah.
And that elderly woman's life, from being alone and then having Chris, was going to change forever. I was hooked. I was like, who else?
Yeah. That feeling, right? It's indescribable.
Yeah.
um, I think I was crying more than the family was crying because of the responsibility I felt that this was right for everybody, for two families. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. I think that is such a deep part of who we are, and the value that we I'm getting like all emotional, that we get from matchmaking, right? It isn't about us, and it isn't about, just those two people. It is about the world and how we're connecting the world. And
Absolutely.
so, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was a great
Please.
story. And
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of, shall we say, unscrupulous people in this business. In 33 years, I've seen some real bums. But they're like members. If you can identify the crooked ones from the ones who are really want to do good, have love in their heart, you make everlasting changes.
So like how would people, if somebody's interested in working with a matchmaker, what should they be looking for? How do they find a good matchmaker?
Well,
Good
when you want a
question.
matchmaker, you've got to have a talk with the person in the mirror first. Are you really ready to not only look for what you're looking for, but look for your own responsibility in the game? Why haven't you found someone? For some people, it's why is no one good enough? For other people, why do they fall in love with everyone they meet? I, I think it's about trust and respect. And you have to have trust and you have to have respect with your matchmaker. So you need to know them like on a deeper level, because you're hiring someone to find the most important thing in your entire life. You can make all kinds of mistakes and correct them, but the wrong relationship it's torture.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a matchmaker, I think it's all about trust and respect. You have to trust yourself, and you have to respect yourself. And if you don't do those two things, no one else will. I'm not, after all these years, convinced love exists. I think love is a verb. It's taking out the trash when you'd rather not to. It's biting your tongue when you would rather not to, um, or rather not. It, it's trusting that that person that you're going to be completely vulnerable with, and they're going to be completely vulnerable back. That's what you're looking for in a matchmaker. As you talk to this someone, are they fair and honest and genuine? Or are you getting the fast talking sales pitch is what it gets down to.
Right, right. Are they going to show up and be there in those hard times? Because dating isn't easy,
No,
and in this digital age, it is all of this swiping makes it even more complicated. And unfortunately, it those habits of swiping ruin how people now interface with one another. They want that quick fix, right?
there's no question about that.
Yeah.
You think you can look at a picture and decide if that's a person for you? We already have a problem, because the only thing that's certain to change is that picture. And if you don't have the substance, then the relationship is not going to develop. Or and if it should, I mean, because there's nothing wrong with passion, you have those kinds of relationships, but that's not why you use a matchmaker. You use a matchmaker to find your partner in life.
Yeah.
What's more important?
Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say to people that say, like, they make those statements, I don't need a man, I don't need a woman, I don't need, I don't need.
um, I'm they make me so sad. A woman in Austin, Texas office one time, and we were about the same age, 50s, and she came in with her attitude showing, that I don't even know why I'm here. You wouldn't stop calling me. Like, I've never called you once, ma'am. You made an appointment, you're here. So let's start from here. And I don't need a man, you know, and anybody who's all exclusive should be scary. All men cheat, all men lie, all whatever, and all of whatever never is true. It just is. There's exceptions to every rule, good and bad. Um, I tried everything to connect from my heart with this woman, and finally, just being altruistic, I said as softly as I can with this voice, what awful thing happened in your past to make you so bitter and bitchy?
Wow. Sometimes you just gotta give that tough love. Like, yeah. How did that
Stop
work out?
breathing now. Yeah, I mean, I stopped breathing then when I said it, and I just stopped again because that was a what they call a come to Jesus moment. She could either decide I wasn't going to date her. I think I told her that too when I got wound up. She couldn't stop me, right? Mouth just started. Um, I said, I'm not going to date you. So it doesn't matter what I think of you or anything. I'm just asking you. You came to me for help and you came in here with your attitude on your shoulders. And I don't, do you think I have magic? Do you think I'm, the one that got away in 1692? I don't know what you thought, but the truth was, if she wasn't going to participate, she could have paid me whatever she wanted to pay me. And she was always going to be a thorn. She was never going to be worth her money because she didn't want success. She wanted to be a victim and she wanted to look for the next man that was going to cheat her.
Mhm. So you have to get out of your own way if you want love. You have to be open, you have to be vulnerable, you have to be coachable, and you have to be, willing to accept that this can happen for you. You have to believe it.
And you have to love yourself, maybe I'm saying, Denise. You have to
Yeah.
think that you're worthy.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's where the coaching part of this industry, because in the beginning, as a mass, the industry didn't coach. We enrolled them and matched them and sent them off and hoped that it worked. That's
Right.
really the foundation of how I started. Um, you'd get a feeling about some people, as I did with Beverly and Chris, and you'd match them and it would work out. But you'd also get a feeling for someone that they both wanted to kill you after they met. But that was the difference back then. They could get in their car, drive to my office, come in, whether they were hooting or hollering or they just said, I want to talk to you. I pour 2 cups of coffee. We would go and sit down. Oftentimes I would smoke in the office. I was in tobacco country. And if they did, I would. And they would tell me what the real deal was. I remember a woman who had a horrible story with an abusive relationship and tight with the money and controlled her completely. And I introduced her to an architect. I mean, look how successful Mr. Brady was. He had blended family and live-in help. I thought this woman is going to hit the jackpot with this architect that was really going to love her and love her daughter. And she came to my office furious because they met at a coffee shop and he had a ball cap on Saturday afternoon.
A ball cap.
Oh, and that's a deal breaker.
So that's what I mean about
Yeah.
And Dr. Frankie, I don't know, you probably would have fired me. I just wouldn't allow that behavior. I said to her, so we don't really care if he beats you up or abuses your daughter or is financially secure. What we really want is a good set of hair. Is that what you're trying to tell me? I mean, so he's bald.
Right.
I have to get a hat collection.
Right? Like this is a good quality person.
Yeah. And that's the passion that I've always had since that first couple, when I realized I had the power and I had their trust and I had the money of a real person with a real life, with real feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's taken me years to feel like I can actually confront people confidently, like having, right. You've got to have the experience to back up what you're saying as a matchmaker. I think it's scary to confront people when they think, because they think our clientele thinks they know it all, right? They're running the show. They're running companies, they're CEOs, they're executives, they're doctors, attorneys.
I compared it to Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers is $1 billion industry. And it's $1 billion industry because it works. You go there and you pay them. They give you a diet and you read the words and do what it tells you. If you fail, stop, break something along the way, it's not going to work. So when people would say to me, oh, I tried Weight Watchers and it didn't work. Well, obviously I'm looking at it, right? And what couldn't work? You can't read, you didn't follow the diet. I knew that Weight Watchers fundamentally does the right thing. And I always thought of me like that. I've got your back. I have your best interest in heart. I'm not dating you. I don't care. You don't impress me much. You know that I have a Maserati, or I want to date someone with a Maserati. The stories I have on that alone would fill a book.
That's like funny. I love it.
So I tell this story to my friends and they tease me all the time about this story. It's a running joke. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, and this man comes in and his family owns a chicken farm, and it's a pretty big one. And they make chicken. And he bought a big package for those days, and he talked very country. And I said, okay. I mean, he was loaded. We got to dress up this outside. And he wanted a starlet. He thought he should have the belle of the ball. Well, young, beautiful girl came in, 28. She was a head librarian at the main library downtown Columbia, and she was 5'8" and just gorgeous. I mean, dark hair, blue eyes. It was just like, whoa, I might date her, right? So I introduced him to the first girl and he didn't like her. She wasn't pretty enough for him, good enough for him. And this girl, the librarian, said to me that she wanted a man who could take her to the theater. And that didn't mean the movie house. She just wanted the money. She
Oh,
wanted to update that South Carolina
Mhm.
library. And she wanted to go to New York to the theater. She wanted that life. So who better than Chicken Man, right? I mean, he's got that kind of money, God willing. And he calls her, she calls, and I get her feedback. He calls her on the phone, and the first thing out of his mouth, I'm gonna make up a name here. Leslie, you like chicken? No, he did not lead on the telephone.
oh
And
my
so if you
gosh.
relate that to today, I mean, somebody's typing and they say, you like chicken, and out. I mean, no,
Yeah,
no, I won't
yeah,
meet you. I don't care what you own. But
that's right.
he said, I want to meet you, but I met somebody and she was really disappointing. So um, I don't want to buy you coffee unless you're what I'm looking for. Didn't want to buy
Now,
coffee.
yeah, now he's cautious. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So she says, well, I'm at the library from this time to that time. Just come on down here. And he comes down and he got a look at that. And he said, I'm going to buy you New York.
Like, it's
I
okay
mean,
if you don't like chicken. You don't have to like chicken. You can
oh
be a
no.
vegetarian.
Yeah, that's
You could
right.
be a vegan.
I
Exactly.
don't even like chicken. What are you talking about? And he said, can I take you to lunch? Can I take you to dinner? Can I buy you a new house? And she said, I wouldn't let you buy me a cup of coffee. If you were
Wow.
so cheap that you wouldn't buy me a cup of coffee without looking at me first, no, thank you. Well, then I had two members in my office fussing at one. It was my fault that this situation occurred. And I just, when you marry money, you're going to have to do some training. You're going to have to settle for a few odd things in some places. And if you just want a beauty queen on your arm and you don't, then you
That's
don't
right.
want her to have a brain or her own opinions, or she can't be a vegetarian. Just
Mhm.
oddness of what people think is important,
Yeah.
and call it
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Different
Or what they'll
strokes.
tolerate. The abuses
Yes.
someone will tolerate in whatever way and say, oh, but I loved him. No, sister, or no, darling, that's not love. That's an obsession. That's a disorder.
Dysfunction.
There's a different kind of doctor person for that, not a matchmaker. So let's work on this and then we can work on that.
Well, you're also touching on something else, the point of like the idea that it's easy to blame somebody else, to
That's
not
right.
take responsibility for your part and put it on the matchmaker.
Um, so before you hire a matchmaker, have a talk with the person in the mirror and say, I want to change my life. Because if you hire and pay a reputable matchmaker and you do your homework and you relate to the person and you feel that person gets you and you lay down your money, then don't try to tell them how to build the house. You don't go to a restaurant, a five-star restaurant, and go in the kitchen and tell the chef how to prepare your meal, because he knows what he's doing. That's what you paid him for.
Yes.
Why
Exactly.
would you hire a matchmaker to tell them what you need? If you knew what you needed, you wouldn't be hiring a matchmaker. You might decide to be alone, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the clinical studies, and Dr. Frankie, you know better than I, people in relationships, people who share life are healthier, happier, and live longer. It's just,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
a fact.
The facts. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Life is more enjoyable shared.
Absolutely.
I had a bodybuilder in Reno, Nevada tell me that he was built like a brick house. And we were having a great conversation. And I said, why do you really want someone to share your life? And he said, even sharing an ice cream cone, even eating an ice cream cone is more fun if you share it. And I said, when the hell did you ever eat an ice cream cone? And he said, I'll eat an ice cream cone a couple times a month. I'm like, okay, well, this is a start. I can work with this. um, but it's true. You can go out to dinner alone, but it's always more enjoyable. And I could say, Denise, how's your food? Oh, that looks yummy. And we can bond over bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, tell us how, because you're an OG, you old school. So how are you doing matchmaking today that differs from how you did it 30 years ago?
I'm meaner today. I don't have tolerance. When your life gets closer to the end of the chapter, you don't have time for the pretty words and the BS and that. So I'm going to talk to you from my heart, and you're going to be smart enough to get it, or it's going to be another failed relationship, mine and yours, because I'm not going to tolerate it. So it's really serious now. And on top of that, people want a matchmaker's help who think online services, swiping, an app is finding love. That's finding a cute picture. That's finding a good writer who wrote a good bio. That's finding sex. Nothing wrong with any of those things, but don't say it's a matchmaker if that's what your desire is. You hire a matchmaker when you want to change your life. When
Real results. Results.
A partner. And you got to learn how to be a partner with your matchmaker before you're going to be a partner with whoever your matchmaker is going to match. So I had a couple. Am I boring you with these old silly stories?
No.
So interesting.
I had a couple. And so in the old days, without a computer, we hand wrote everything. So men went on blue profile cards and women went on pink. And we filed everybody by age. I thought I made up this system. It was brilliant. And so they had a hanging file. It would say 20 to 30 and or 29, 30 to 39. And that's where they hung. And you take a Polaroid picture and staple it on their profile. So if you were wearing a Christmas bow tie, it would be like, where's that guy with a Christmas bow tie? That's, if you couldn't remember his name, that's what he looked like forever in your brain. And you wrote off everything they wanted. And somebody, the matchmaker, would paperclip them and then give them to the person who enrolled them and who knew them to approve that match or get approval on that match if something was off. And so I made a match, and I was just sure it was great. And somebody else made the match. I approved the match, but there were a couple of things off, and I just wanted to clarify it. So it was a Monday morning, and I called an engineer, and I told him that I had a perfect match for him, a blonde. She was a registered nurse. She had one son, and he was grown and independent. She had her own money. She wasn't after his money. I had sat with him. I knew everything he wanted, and she had it. And he said, it's so exciting. And I said, there's just one little problem. She's 3 years older than you. He would only date up to his age. And he said, no way. I don't want to meet her. Steve, I'm telling you, she's perfect. This was a Monday. And he said, no way. So Steve's divorce wasn't final because of financial affairs. He had emotionally detached. Again, I had sat with him. There was no question he was ready to move forward, but they had rental properties. They were fighting over who got what. And so I called Carol and I said, I got the great guy for you. He's this, he's that, he's 3 years younger. Oh, sounds great. He's an engineer. And the only thing is, he is legally separated, waiting on the divorce. No way. I'm not dating him again. I said, I'm telling you, this man is perfect for you. And she said no. And I thanked her and hung up and kept them paper clipped. And I came in on Tuesday morning. I picked up the phone and I called Steve and I said, I got a great girl for you. And she's a nurse. She has blonde hair, blue eyes. Our child is independent and grown. Tress thinks I have dementia. You called me about her yesterday, and I'm going to call you tomorrow too. So do you want to go ahead and meet her? No. He refused again, and I have to handwrite, refused match. And I hung up and called her, and I said, I had a great match. He's an engineer. And I started telling her, and she said, Tress, you called me yesterday about him. Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to call you tomorrow too. No. I called Wednesday, Thursday, and on Friday I called and I figured I had to change my presentation. So I let off with, I'm so certain I'm right and you're wrong that I'd like to bonus you one free match. And that is a woman named Carol. So I'm going to bonus this match. And if she's not everything I said, then no harm, no foul. Okay, but I don't like it. And I'm sure I'm not going to like her. Thank you for doing it. Hang up. I call Carol and I tell her the same thing as she says, which was, again, just stuck. She said, I'll meet him, but I'm not going to sleep with him until he's divorced. Fair enough. I didn't ask you to sleep with him. Like, where do you go in your head? I just asked you to go to lunch with him. And they met. And about within the year, I was at Harris in Lake Tahoe and at their wedding, at the reception, when the best man stood up and he had a big piece of paper and he said, where's Tressa? And so I wave and he says, stand up. And I stand up. And they had written that in a comedy routine, much funnier than I shared with you today. And Tressa said, and they said no. And Tressa said, okay, we'll talk tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow. Hire a matchmaker if you want to change your life. Yeah. And then let the matchmaker do what you hired her to do.
Yeah.
And be open to her suggestions and coaching and her love. She can't be successful unless you're successful. So she has nothing but love for you. She has nothing but your best interest in heart. She has nothing but the same exact goal unless you're fooling yourself. Unless you really are looking for the next excuse why all men cheat or all women spend everybody's money, all the stereotype BS that really, I go, really, we're still going to talk about this bullshit in 2023? I've been here over 3 decades hearing this. It's like, yeah, get over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you work with everyone, Tressa? Like gay, straight, anybody, anywhere in the country? Give us an idea. What do you focus on?
I, for years, asked the big box franchise I was with to allow us to do gays. My best friend growing up in Columbia, South Carolina was gay, and Paul and I traded jeans and sometimes boyfriends, I'm not ashamed to say. And if he was really cute and not for me, he didn't go that way. I said, stay right there, darling. So I was matchmaking then. Paul, hurry. I said to the big box early on, we got to match gays. I mean, I'm so bored with the heterosexual stories. All I hear is man cheats and women cries, and let's hear some new stories. And so I did work with a startup company for a few months, and a gay company here in Austin, based out of Austin. And I said to her after about a month, it's the same damn story. Boy cheats on boy has his heart broke. It's like, it wasn't a different story. No. The desire was just the same. But Dr. Frankie, I'm all about love. I don't care what you are, where you came from. I don't care where you're going. As long as you are a straight shooter and honest and genuine, you and I are going to laugh a lot.
Yeah.
But it's so bizarre again that in 2023 we have to even have this discussion.
Yeah.
Like, is a gay man or a gay woman deserving of love? What bullshit. I'm like, everybody gets it but you. So that's crazy.
I mean, I was the only one on the scene 15 years ago. So finally now there are more matchmakers that are focusing on LGBTQ, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. I know you are a pioneer in that, and I never understood it myself. I remember having a franchise meeting in Las Vegas and standing up to the chagrin of everyone in the room. I'm like, when are we going to do this? I
Right.
own a franchise. I get a vote if I want to do it. I remember in Reno saying to a couple of my gay friends, I've already paid for all this material, the franchise. We'll duplicate it and let's go in with me and do it. But Dr. Frankie, people are afraid.
Yes.
People to be a pioneer.
Yeah. Well, now it's
because
making me think of trans, right? Now trans folks have a toughest time
Exactly.
finding each other. And we work with trans folks, but it'd be nice to see somebody specializing just in like niche,
Trans.
right?
Yeah.
Trans. Yeah.
because it is a niche market
Yes.
and they
Mhm.
need a special attention
Yeah.
that
Yep.
maybe the three of us aren't completely aware of yet. Absolutely. So that's a market for everyone. And in my day, if they showed up in my office, I didn't care what it was. I signed you up. And I was in Denver, Colorado in 93, and we had this beautiful glass building and we were on the first floor. And I said to a girl, there was a trans sitting outside having a cup of coffee at the little cafe. And I said, Angie, get ready. Your first appointment is sitting out there having coffee. And in 93, she was like, no way. And our lobby door opened and she walked. And Angie said, what do I do?
You treat her.
What the hell do you mean? What
That's
do I do?
right.
Yeah,
What
like
you do,
everybody
what
else.
you've been doing. That's right. Exactly what you've been doing. The same thing. Yeah.
So it's not only about educating on dating, it's educating society.
Exactly.
All of them, and helping coaching, because I know from my friend Paul, he had horror stories that I didn't have to deal with 50 years ago when we were dating the same boy.
What are your rules?
Things that he had to deal with, even going out, that made me
Give us some rules. What rules when you tell your clients, when you coordinate dates for your clients, what rules do you give them?
Shut up.
How do they have to behave?
Shut up. That's
Say
my
less.
number one.
Say less and listen more.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, Dr. Frankie, again, you know this better than I, but when people get nervous, they either clam up or they can't shut their mouth. Exactly. And so a first date is like, oh, and then my ex beat me up and dragged me down the street. And then my ex ran off with my money and slept with my boss. And it's like, shut up. You
Yeah,
don't know.
say less.
Say less and
That's
more.
where social media has ruined us. You just tell all your business and wash your dirty laundry, and people think that's normal. Shut up is my first suggestion.
Maintain some mystery, right?
Absolutely. Even when you're planting a garden, you hide a little something, something, you know, je ne sais pas. Everybody needs a little something, something to pull out of their sleeve if it gets off the track. So hold back a little, and that's not a sin of omission. If somebody says, so are you divorced? They didn't say what happened. The answer is yes.
Yeah. And here's the thing with matchmaking, you already know that this person is meeting those basic a divorced person, the simple things, right? You already know that person meets that. So have a different conversation. You know,
you should know it, right, Denise? You should know that.
You should know it. If you were open to meeting someone that was, only had older children, that this person that we've matched you to only has older children, or else we would have had a discussion about it beforehand. So go into the date. Yeah, absolutely. Go into the date with the knowledge that the matchmaker has met those preferences that you've asked, or we would have had the conversation.
I'm sorry for stepping on you, but the reason that you date successfully when you're 16 is because you're vulnerable. You don't have the walls and the brick house and the moat and the swimming alligators keeping people from coming to you. You just go, oh, they're cute.
Yeah.
And so you fall in love.
You're
and
just
it's
open.
exciting and it's fun and it's happy. And there's a song written about it just at that time. Depending on the generation, what song that just relates. That is all true, except when you've had a bruise, you've been knocked down, and you don't get all the way up. You're just on your knees. You got to stand up. You got to love yourself. You've got to be ready for what the world will give you. And that's why you need a matchmaker that sometimes if you don't believe, they'll believe for you until you can believe. I have so many of those stories when someone come in and would tell me I'm too fill in the blank. And then I would get indignant because if they came in and I thought they were lucky enough to get me as their counselor, their coach, if they were lucky enough that God must have a reason for for them to meet the OG badass, one that was going to tell them, call their bullshit, that why they didn't meet one of the cute little flippy girls out there with a nice little sweet voice that was going to agree with everything they said. Good luck.
Right.
You put it in here and shut the door.
But
I
actually,
cry. I
that
cry.
reminds me of the now matchmaking is on national television, right? On Netflix and things like that. There's the Jewish matchmaker, and I'm watching that show, and the matchmaker's just like, sure, you want somebody who's 5'11" in perfect shape, self-possessed, is successful, has higher education, and okay, check, check, check. And I'm thinking, this is not realistic. Just remind.
And they're in the Carolinas or someplace weird. I would tell a client in South Carolina who said they have to be Jewish. Well, there's a 4-letter word for that. Move. That person isn't in the Carolinas. Let's look at the demographics.
Exactly.
And because I was in South Carolina in the 90s, and an African American woman would come in with a PhD, and she was all that. And she couldn't find a man.
Sure.
And that didn't cheat on her. I mean, she'd had a long-term relationship and put up with him when he was a bum. And I took that so personal. I'm like, oh, we're going to kill him. I'm going to find you a man that he's going to be so sorry. Oh, I thought she was my best friend and I just wanted to love her and help her. And I did. So again, no matter where you come from, no matter what has happened in your past, you can't drive your car straight while looking in the rearview mirror. It's, well, maybe a Tesla you can, but even that wrecks occasionally, right? So you've got to be looking where you're going, and you have to know the exits. I once drove in Italy. Not smart. It is not smart when you can't read the signs. I've never been cussed so much in my whole life.
Tressa, how can people find you? How do they reach out to you? Do you have social media? Are you old school? They have to send you something in snail mail? Like, how do they connect with you?
If that's the case, it's going to take a month to get here. And $50, right?
Totally.
I would prefer, Dr. Frankie, I'll defer, particularly somebody who needs the tough love, that they go through Denise and she vet them or screen them, and she will bring me in to do whatever is needed, and I will think that's my calling and my privilege to do that.
So somebody that comes to us that we're thinking, oh, they need to work with Tressa, because Tressa's gonna break it down.
It would be, again, I think of that as my honor. I think it is my gift. I love music and I can't sing a lick. I can tell you who wrote it and when it was recorded. I love love and whatever it takes to get there. And if they try to work with Denise's demure, get along, loving attitude, which there was days I'm like, no, Denise, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna kill him. And she was like, no, you're not. Not today. And if that approach will work, and you want somebody who talks language, because there are people who talk my language, who want their coffee and their scotch straight up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What if
It's
people
such a
want to
pleasure.
learn more about you? Where
Um,
can they find information about you?
well, you can Google me. Tressa, Tressa O'Lear, O apostrophe capital Lear. And you could send me an email at TressaGo2. So it's TressaGo2 at gmail.com.
Love it. This has been such a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really.
I was afraid I would bore you. You certainly have more knowledge in this industry than I do now. And you know, if you want to hear what you're going to be in another 20 years, if you stay in the industry, you can email me too, doctor.
I love all your stories though. Like it's so, so many clients and the ones that really leave a lasting memory, where we just carry them close to our heart with us always,
Yeah.
even the
No,
toughest ones sometimes get in there. Yeah.
I seldom remember a story where somebody who had it together came in and I introduced them to somebody who had it together and they rode off into the sunset. I had so many of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Those are the
give
easy
me the
Standouts.
one that
Yes.
really wants change, I like to affect change. I like to see a blossom.
All
So
right. We see you, Tressa. So don't worry. When we got this sometimes come up. So be ready. Be ready
Yes,
for those.
for
always.
sure. For sure.
Denise
This
is a
has been
girl.
great.
Awesome. All right, Tressa. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Frankie.
And thank
Thank
you
you, Tressa.
everyone for tuning in. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. This is